We're starting a new series during the month of June, and we're going to be going over the Sermon on the Mount. And so, in prelude to that, I wanted to lay a foundation today, so we can truly get the most out of what's being shared. So everybody breathe in the light of God. Breathe in that beautiful love of you, that I am in you. All right. When I began my official participation in a metaphysical Christian church, I was 30. And at the time, in the Unity Church, there were two thoughts amongst the ministries. Amongst the ministers, Unity churches are all independent, but there were two different thoughts amongst the ministers. One was the thought of being an absolutist. An absolutist minister dealt with truth. Only truth, truth. And then there were the ministers that were known as humanistic. And the humanistic ministers dealt with you and your issues and what's happening. And the services were geared toward that. Humanistic was about unraveling the human emotions that are entangled with our lives. How to make our lives better, and how does this help me? Because I can tell you you're God's child all day long, which is absolute truth, correct? That's an absolutist. But if you can't make that help you, it's just an idea. I want us to get really clear on the two different lines of thought. In the absolute thought, you are love, right? You're love. In the humanistic thought, you are varying degrees of love at different times. See? Okay. The absolute would say to you, create a treasure map or a vision board and go out and manifest your dream. The humanistic minister would say, create a vision board or a treasure map, and everything that's within you that's in resistance to it is going to come up. And you're going to get to play with it, and you're going to get to heal, and then eventually your dream will come. Both valid, right? Yeah. Both valid. But as an individual, where's our focus? Where's our focus? So, humanistic tends to stare at an issue trying to find good or God. Absolutists tend to say, God, I don't see anything, it's yours. Can you see where you play both sides of the spectrum? Okay. In counseling, when you're in counseling and InnerQuest, very rarely will you ever be told, you are the Christ. Because you hear it like this, you are the Christ, grow up. Smack. Most of the time it's, okay, let's see why you're feeling, why are you attached, let's try to untangle the human attachments to the condition. We know you are the Christ, we pray for your Christ to be there, but we try to untangle it. Alright. Until you understand what it means to be the Christ, you have to find your way there. So, people are at varying levels of consciousness. And remember the definition of consciousness. It's your functioning level of awareness. You can know lots of stuff in your brain, but until it functions within you and you can apply it and use it, it's not operative really. It's your functioning level of awareness, it's your consciousness. So, how much truth can our consciousness absorb? We speak of people being bright, don't we? Oh, they're just so bright. They're such a bright student. We almost could actually insert the word receptive. Oh, they're such a receptive student. They're so receptive to what's going on and what I'm saying. Doesn't matter if they get it or not. They're receptive. We like that. So we call them bright. Or, they're not getting it. They're not getting it. I can't see how to make it valuable to them. I cannot show them how this is going to increase their livelihood, their worth, their whatever. So, when we have cleared the fears and the emotional needs, we are more receptive to the light. All right, you got the two camps? There was a reason for this intro. When Jesus was very young, he was under 24 years old. He had been studying with the Buddhists and the Brahms, and he had been traveling up into the mountains in India, and he studied with a man named Mingsti. He ended up in Ladakh, in a city called Leh, and this is before Heliopolis, before the tests of Egypt. This is way before he started his ministry. He's under 24. We know that because several chapters later they say he's not 24. So, he's a young man. So I wanted to read to you, this is 36:11, about these people. So he's been studying with Mingsti, and now he's out teaching the people, and everybody loves him. They love him. He's teaching the monks, he's teaching the merchants, and then he goes to the men of trade and starts teaching them. He teaches everybody from the low to the high, it doesn't matter. He's teaching them about God. There was a woman whose child was sick, and the doctor said he had to die because there was no hope. The woman heard that Jesus was a teacher sent from God, and she believed he had the power to heal her son. Jesus had never done a healing in the Aquarian Gospel before. He's under 24 years old. This woman believed he had the power to heal her son. Where is she functioning? A very open, strong belief in absolute God, absolute good. So she clasped the dying infant in her arms and ran with haste and asked to see Jesus. When he saw her faith, he lifted up his eyes to heaven and said, "My Father God, let power divine overshadow me, and let that holy breath fill this child, that it may live." And in the presence of the multitude, he laid his hands on the child, and he said, "Good woman, you are blessed. Your faith has saved your son." And the child was well. And the people were astonished, and they said, "Surely this is the Holy One made flesh, for man alone cannot rebuke a fever and save a child." And many of the people brought their sick, and Jesus spoke the word, and they were healed. And then it says, among the Ladics, Jesus tarried many days. He taught them how to heal. He taught them how sins are blotted out. He taught them how to make on earth a heaven of joy. And when he was leaving, it says they mourned him as if they were losing their mother. They loved him so dearly. So these people were receptive. I want you to hear this. Whatever belief they had, they were receptive to understanding how they can heal, how they can blot sins out, how they can create heaven on earth. I want you to hear their consciousness. He is less than 24, and he's already empowered a city with all the gifts that he had to give. Because they were ready, and their beliefs did not inhibit it. So take a breath. All right. During the second year of his ministry with the Jewish faith, he came back to work with his people. It was a 3-year ministry. You guys know this. During the first year, he does the baptism with John the Baptist, the desert experience. He gathers his 12 disciples. He's teaching them. And during the second year, he really starts building momentum. He's still healing people, but he's not dealing with the populace in the same way he did in Ladakh. These are his people. They have different ideas. He's not dealing with them in the same way. He's training the 12 so they can hold the light, and then the other masters. So, I wanted to share with you what is going on right before the Sermon on the Mount occurs. This is chapter 93. He's talking with Pharisees. On a Sabbath day, they would all gather and debate the law. So he's talking with Pharisees, and he says, and they're arguing about healing on the Sabbath. And we all know why Jesus healed on the Sabbath. Jesus healed on the Sabbath because that's when the people came to the temple. They were there. He was there. That's when he healed. It was a simple thing. It wasn't planned. That's when the people gathered. So they're giving Jesus a hard time about having healed on the Sabbath, which he did all the time. And Jesus says to them, the Sabbath day was made for man. Man was not made for the Sabbath. Do you hear the absolute belief coming in here? And he says, man is son of God, and under the eternal law of right, which is the highest law, he may annul the statute laws. Son of God, you may annul statute laws. Do you not see the absolutism coming in here? Then he says, the Son of Man is Lord of every law. Did not a prophet sum the duties of man in the book when he wrote, in mercy, follow justice, and walk humbly with your God? The Son of Man is Lord of every law. So he's, he's presenting to the Pharisees a perception of absolute truth. You are Son of God, you do not have to obey these laws. You are Son of God, you can rewrite these laws. You're Son of God. You do not have to live this way. And the Pharisees, we know what they said. You're not Abraham, you're not David, you're not all those people that brought us to this place. So we're still going to obey laws. Who do you think you are? So in his world, he is dealing with people who have been evolved. They've evolved under a statute of laws that came actually from thousands of years before they lived. These people he's talking to. He's dealing with these ancient laws that govern their ideas and thoughts. So how does he bring truth to that? The Pharisees debunk it immediately. Boop, 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 go away. Now he has to go talk to the people, to the ones that he really came to talk to. How does he bring truth to them, knowing those laws are so deep in their heart? Do you understand? Absolute versus the humanistic. The emotional entanglement is strong. We have to understand, how is this going to help me? How does he bring this to the people? He not only has the laws of their religion, he also has their culture. And we don't know a lot about it. I reference Dr. Errico all the time. He wrote the commentaries on the New Testament and is an Aramaic scholar and a scholar of history. He said it was not uncommon in the small towns in these areas where the Jewish people lived. You know, they were Rome occupied them, but they still had their hierarchy. It was not uncommon for a poor man to have a cow or an animal, a rich man to have abundance, and then a man of high estate, a wealthy man, come through town, go to the rich man for dinner. And the rich man would go to the poor man and take his only cow and cook that for dinner. And there were no rights. So the people, culturally, the wealthy were esteemed. The wealthy did not work. The wealthy did not pay taxes. It was the lower people, the people of the working class, who did everything or held up the energy. So it was not uncommon for the wealthy to freely avail themselves of anything the poor people might have without restitution. So not only were they dealing with these laws of a religious set, because remember, with them, religion and government are the same. They're also dealing with cultural laws. And if I'm a poor person, and I just had my only cow taken from me by the rich guy on the hill who has plenty of cows, and I'm going to listen to this metaphysical teacher come to me, this Jesus, who I don't know from Adam, what's on my mind? Can you get that guy on the hill for me? You know? Can you just tell God to come down and smack him? Our energy at that level of consciousness is seeking, how do I know God, but how can I know God when all this is happening to me? Do you understand? So Jesus has this very challenging position for all he knows at an absolute level. How can he filter it down to the people of that day? And when we go into the Sermon on the Mount, which we're going to do the next few weeks, it's really important for us to understand what is happening and what he is saying to them. Because we cling to that as desperately as some people cling to the Ten Commandments. It's not our culture, it's not our heritage. People don't take our cows anymore. We've evolved past that. But we cling to some of these things. All right. All right, as he prepares to teach this multitude, this Sermon on the Mount, which he knows is what's going to happen, the very first thing is he takes all of his 12 disciples and he goes, I'm going to teach you guys how to pray. Scoffs them up, teaches them the Lord's Prayer, which Patrick is going to go over with you in 2 weeks. They're ready to go. Everybody's on board. And then he says this to his disciples immediately prior to the message to the people. 12 pillars of the church, apostles of the Christ, light bearers of the Son of Life and ministers of God to men. Whoa. In just a little while you must go forth. But you shall go in love and helpfulness and lead the way to right and light. Go forth and say the kingdom is at hand, which means the counsel of God is here for you. Kingdom is counsel of God. Go forth and say, the counsel of God is here for you. Now, did he say to them, you know what, guys, it's going to be really tough. Come on. You're my students. You're doing great. We're going public now. It's going to be hard. And I want you to hold the Christ. Don't get your feelings hurt, because it's going to happen. Did he talk to their human natures? He called the Christ forth. Okay, guys, this is it. This is when the rubber meets the road. You know how to pray. You know you're the Christ. I'm calling you forth now. Hold that light. And now he moves in to the people. Now, does he say the same thing to the people? No. No. He would say, you are the sons of God, and go forth in love. And they'd say, would you get the guy on the hill for me, please? I mean, la, 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 la. I cannot hear it until you tell me about that. Tell me what to do about that. Jesus takes the truth and lifts it into everything they know to give greater understanding, which is why he talks about the Ten Commandments. It's why he talks about the things that are familiar with them, because he's trying to bring the truth into what they are going through. So he puts this beautiful absolute truth into what they know and then lifts them up. All right. He brought truth into a form that was usable in their world. It was a space between the absolute and the humanistic. It was a space between, where both elements were represented. He would speak in parables, which is a common story with a spiritual meaning. And he used it with everything. The blessed arts, the woe-tos, these wake up, blessed are, woe to. These are ideas that they were experiencing that he's bringing light underneath. In each, he lifts, it puts a God filter right in the middle of it so they can lift up into it. He could have stood there and told them all about the universe. He could have told them all about God, all about the greatness of everything in our world, how we create matter, how we forgot, how we are God's children, how we could wake up. But the level of consciousness at the time could not hear. Absolute humanistic spirit gave me this visual for you guys. Why are we talking about this now? I want to prepare you for everything we're going through, but I want to unhook in your brain that we have to make the Ten Commandments right. I want to unhook in your brain that we have to live by standards that protected us from whatever these people were going through. We live by the higher. We want to find that higher. However, in our world right now, we are humanistic and absolutist. So Spirit gave me this visual. They said, and this is for all of us, don't anybody say this is just mine, although it's probably yours. They showed me the vision of a man in a straitjacket buried under the ground. And he would say, I want out of here. And he would say, I want out of here. And he would be probably aggressive as he said that. Don't you think? Mm-hmm. Now, do you think Spirit would go, yeah, why did you choose to go down there? Do you think Spirit would say that to that person? No. Spirit might say, don't struggle against the constraints. Just a little word. Reaching where you are, don't struggle. You're fighting with what is. Relax. What do you desire? I want out of here. Feel your desire without the struggle. Spirit might say. Now we're moving this beautiful energy of possibility into an extremely futile situation. Do you understand? How many of you have been underground with life jacket, strap jacket? Okay. Yeah. We all have. And as you struggle, if someone told you it's all your fault, you would get a hand loose and smack them. It's a struggle. But the higher law says breathe. The higher law says focus on. You don't want to be here. That's great. Good focus. Focus on it and relax. And then that higher law would say, here, let me help you with your hand. And they would move your hand and they would unbutton something for you. Okay, there's one step. All right, don't struggle. Relax. Okay, what else can we do? What do you want? I want out of here. Okay, let's just keep breathing. And help with something else. Until over a period of time, perhaps, or instantly, depending on your consciousness, you would be lifted into a space of above-ground freedom where you can choose again. The thing is, when you hit that space of above-ground freedom, are you trusting in the absolute? Are you still mad at the guy on the hill that put you there? You know? Are we still carrying that idea of God save me and God punish now? Do you understand what I'm saying here? Metaphysical Christians, we know both. We know the beautiful value of being unhooking and looking at how we're attached and doing that dance of resurrecting ourselves from the past. And we know the strength when, in those moments when it matters, we are the Christ. Have you not called forth your Christ? And what makes you do that normally? Crisis, drama, planes going down, I'm calling it forth. You know, something bad's happening, I'm calling it forth. Jesus was trying to get the people to walk at the higher level. And I think you're going to really enjoy the series as we go through and unhook some of those beliefs and really understand what is really being said. I think you'll enjoy that. But as we walk toward it, it will mean so much more if we can begin to unhook ourselves from the past. You'll realize as we go through this month how much you are attached to the Ten Commandments. Go ahead and say you're not, you are. You'll realize how much our moral standards go back at least 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years. They do. And how every one of these ideas could be supplanted with one thought. Love. Every single moral could be just love. Every precept of how to create could just be love. Because in love you are in God, and in God you are in harmony. You see? All right. I have big plans for us. Can you feel it?
Yes.
You guys ready to grow?
Yes.
Okay. I know here we are really always trying to make the sermons and the messages, they're not really sermons, they're messages, how to make your life better. How can this help you? When you get into my classes and you start studying, a lot of it's absolute. Suck it up, you're my class, boom, yeah. So at InnerQuest we have both camps. We have all the energy flowing. So Spirit said this, what if every morning, this is a lot to say, but you can rephrase it in your own being. What if every morning, before you put one foot out the door, after you've meditated, you're ready to go, you had your coffee, you stood at your door and you said, I am a light bearer of the Son of Life, a minister of God. I go forth in love and helpfulness, and I lead the way to right and light. Not right by my standards, just God. Or we could just say, I am child of God, I am the Christ, I go forth in God's love this day. That's simple. How would that feel to call forth your divine perfection, that absolute of you, before you step your foot out into all this stuff? You know, it doesn't bother me one bit when Patrick looks at me and says, be the Christ. I'm normally not being the Christ. I don't know if it bothers him when I do the same thing to him. But it doesn't bother me, because instantly it's like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm not. I'm in my attachment of emotional play. Okay, let me be the Christ. Okay, I still believe what I believe, but I'm going to present it in a different way. You know, I'm going to be in love, try to come into that absolute space. You know, Jesus, how he taught healing to those he did teach healing to, be aware that he couldn't teach the masses what he taught the people of Ladakh. There was way too much to overcome. He had to just get the light in, get the light in, get the light in. But how he taught his disciples to heal was he lifted them up into the absolute. And the person that was coming to receive, would you be healed? They had to say, yes, I surrender to that absolute. Yes. How many people said, no, we don't know? Probably a bunch of people said, oh, where we go. But yes, I would be healed. And they surrendered to the absolute that all the healers lifted to. And that enabled them to channel the belief, the knowing, the energy of the perfect child of God into that person. And the perfect child of God is healed. See? He taught his followers to live them. So if we know that, when we go out into our world, we know we're not supposed to violate the will of another. So if somebody wants to scrump and cry, we can't really go in and change that. But we could silently say to them, I behold a Christ in you, without saying it out loud. Silently, I acknowledge you as child of God. And if my path is to move on, I'll move on. Do you understand what I'm saying? I am child of God, you are a child of God, I'm going to acknowledge that. So, I'm not sure where the camps are these days between the absolute teachers and the humanistic teachers. I'm sure it's all a fun mix of activities. But for this week, I want us to truly become aware of how we are responding when we respond. How we are responding when we respond. Calling forth our divinity, calling forth that perfection within us. And I will share this with you. The Sermon on the Mount is beautiful because it tells us how to change how we act, which is how we present ourselves in the outer. It tells us how to change how we see ourselves, which is the inner. And it also tells us how to change our relationship with God, which is spirit. So in this beautiful message hidden, obviously there, but hidden within the rules of that old space, is an awakening of who I am, how I am to be, and how I am to talk to God. It's an awakening to that. And as we start rewriting our future, we rewrite how we see our history. So, all right, so let's go within and anchor this. I want you to take a beautiful breath. Breathe in beauty into your body. It has texture, doesn't it? And let's breathe it in again. A beautiful breath. I breathe beauty into my body. And see a beautiful column of light come over you. Feel that love of God surrounding you. And feel the presence of Jesus Christ with you. And I want you to allow yourself to move very gently into your heart. Just imagine you can sense or see a color, a vibration, or the beautiful garden that's in your heart. And let your focus go to that space. And I want you to stand in that consciousness and say, I'm child of God. I am the Christ. I am Christ, child of God. And feel the energy radiating out. Take a breath, and I want you now to send love to the human part of you. I am the Christ, and I love everything I do. The human part of me I love. I let go judgment, and I fill it with the awareness of God. Breathe and let the beautiful light just move through your emotions, your thoughts, your world. Feel it just cascading through. It may change colors, just keep breathing it through. I am the Christ, yet I love how I am. I forgive shortcomings. I embrace courage. All those things to navigate this world. I let the Christ light move now. And begin to feel a settling in your heart, an acceptance of self, a settling. The divine in me loves me, and the me of me loves my divine. God, we ask that your light just bless each in this moment in their hearts. Let them feel that they are here with you, alive. Just feel the peace for one more second. And let's breathe and send light and love into our world. And very gently begin to allow your focus to come back into this moment. Feel the chair that supports you. I am the Christ, the light bearer. I lead with love, and my life is joy. Oh, we thank you, God. Take a breath and just gently open your eyes. Could you feel the shift when you let that love go out to the human part of you? Could you feel when the human part of you sent love back? I love my divine too. Let's be aware this week. Let's be aware. That's all. Just be aware. If you can do that, you've done a great deed. Say yay, God.
Yeah.